let the uprising begin.
There are only two genders, and one of them is right here. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show.
Hey, you guys, it's a day after the most solemn day of every year, January 6th, 2021. And I just want to remind the Democrats of just exactly what happened on that day. So stick around for that today on the Angela Box Show.
Hello, my name is Angela Box. Show your fucking money.
Okay, you guys, you know how much I love Angel Lift. Angel Lift is this genius little thing that you put in your mouth, these little plastic silicone bands, and you put them in your mouth, and it plumps out your lips, and it makes you truly turn back the clock. Okay. Because as you get older, you're going to notice, if you're not there yet, you'll notice soon, your mouth is going to start puckering up like it looks like you've been smoking on Marlboro Reds your whole life. Okay. And as someone who drinks out of a straw and has my entire existence, basically, I've got that problem. And when I found Angel Lift, I don't know how I came across them, but I found them and I've been using them religiously for years. And I sleep in them, and they're going to say, don't do that. Please don't do that. But I do, whatever. So when you go to angellift.com and use the code Angela Box Show, you're going to get 10% off. Trust me when I tell you, especially ladies, okay? It's not a cute look to have a wrinkle mouth, okay? Get you some Angel Lift and stave off the visit to the filler lady, okay? Because you can get the same look as filler without having to get filler, and for a lot less money. But trust me, get the professional grade ones because those are the best ones. angellift.com/Angela Box Show. Before I lay down the facts for what happened on January 6, 2021, you know, the day that Democrats say that the Republicans stormed the Capitol and committed an insurrection against a sitting president, which would have been President Trump, but whatever, protesting against the most secure election of all time, the stolen election of 2020, you know, that thing they called the big lie if you popped your head up and said anything about it, which of course, now that we come to find out, is the big lie in and of itself. Let's enjoy a little fafoing, shall we? That happened just the other day, and we're going to do a little compare and contrast. Actually, it didn't happen just the other day. It happened on Wednesday. We're going to do a little compare and contrast as to what the Democrats said about this versus, you know, what the piece of shit Michael Byrd did to Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. So earlier this week, or earlier today, there was a protest over in Minneapolis. They were doing the yeoman's work of rounding up a bunch of illegal aliens, and of course every blue-haired fat dykey lesbian liberal white woman and Palestinian flag waving loser just so happened to be there protesting. And this one lady decided, you know what, I think would be a really good idea, because you know, our ICE agents and our Border Patrol officers have been demonized to the point where they are having death threats up, you know, 1,300% or whatever. She's like, you know what, I'm gonna be a hero today, and I'm gonna get me one of these ICE officers. Maybe I can mow them down and kill one of them. Won't that be great? And this lady found out. Okay, so she rammed her car into ICE officers and gets out of the car and proceeds to get shot in the face. Well, this lady has died. Cue the meltdown from the left. I mean, they are acting like this is they are so hoping that this is their Kent State moment. You know they are. You know they are. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Video don't lie. And the video shows this lunatic clearly ramming her car into ICE officers. Roll that clip. You know, if there weren't so many intrepid citizen journalists out there videotaping everything all the time now, the left would be able to get away with a lot more than they're able to get away with now. But They're not. This story will go away in 3, 2, 1 because they don't want the compare and contrast as to what happened on January 6, 2021. Never forget Ashley Babbitt, who was simply a lady who was ushered into the Capitol just like all the rest of them. Remember what happened on January 6th? I mean, I shouldn't say remember, that's too long of a story, but let's just go back to why they entered the Capitol in the first place, okay? Essentially, Trump was telling everyone to go over to the Capitol, peacefully protest, make your voices heard, and we're going to get to what Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton is inviting a libel suit, basically. This woman is stupid. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. President Trump said, listen, we all know this thing was stolen. There's 8 million ways to Sunday we could prove it. The courts are not hearing anything because of standing. They're all saying it's a big lie. It's done and dusted. But everyone is like, but we saw this. We have evidence of that. We know the Voldemort machines are switching votes. We know Smartmatic is switching votes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. President Trump's like, go make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically. So everyone was walking over there, and nothing was really popping off like the undercover FBI agents wanted it to pop off, and not like the deep state plants and the Antifa plants in the crowd wanted it to pop off. So what happened was Capitol Police decided, let's shoot some guns in the air and freak all these people out, scare them all, and then usher them into the Capitol building, which they just so happened to unhook the magnetized doors and open the doors and allowed people in, and all the things that we saw that they did. And I have a friend, and I've played this before, but it is the anniversary, and so it is worth repeating. I had a friend who was there, and he's allowed me to play this for you guys. It's a voicemail that he left me on January 6th, and I've saved it to this day because it's a historical artifact as far as I'm concerned. And he basically was like, something is fishy. Roll that clip.
Hey, Angela, Jesse. Hey, I just got a minute here. I'm out the lobby getting some food. I'm just been so busy. People calling and texting. So what I thought was weird, someone on the bullhorn said, hey, the door's open over here. You go on in. I go straight to the door. And they were just walking in and out like it was going to a museum looking at things. Very calm. It was really strange. Of course, I didn't go in. Like, fuck that. That's breaking memory, so to speak. Although I was so wanting to run in and take a selfie and run out. So I didn't go in. That was the weird part. And now the news is saying what enraged the crowd was a Trump tweet. That's bullshit. What pissed off the crowd was what was going on inside. People watching their phones, live feed. And once Pence basically double-crossed it, they all started screaming, Pence, fuck this. This is the end. He's fucked us over. Blah, blah, blah. Traitor. That's what enraged the crowd. So it's interesting to watch Fox News spin this thing right now. Anyway, I got to run. Just want to give you a shout.
So he had the sixth sense to not go in there. He was like, this is too packed. They're allowing us in. Like, something doesn't feel right here. And of course it wasn't right. And then Ashley Babbitt, who was murdered by a Capitol Police officer named Michael Byrd, who got off with a pardon from Joe Biden's auto pen, which I tend to doubt that auto pen pardon is going to hold up once Trump is done with these things. But we come to find out something even more interesting about Michael Byrd. Michael Byrd, of course, was the left's hero that day. He's like, oh, you mean you got a lady who was walking into the Capitol and you shot her dead? Good for you, Michael Byrd. But this leftist liberal white woman over here ramming ICE officers, that's our Kent State moment. Have all the seats, leftists, okay? Anyway, Michael Byrd, we come to find out something very interesting. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that Michael Byrd and his lovely bride run an unaccredited daycare in Maryland that has pocketed $190 million federal dollars? And you know what's wild about this daycare, you guys? It has no reviews on Google at all. Isn't that weird? Which means it isn't a daycare, and they're part of the fraud, and this was a payoff to Michael Byrd to basically keep him quiet and keep that money flowing. Oh, I hope the temporary largesse was worth it, Michael Byrd, because my suspicion is you're going to be in a lot of trouble along with all your other co-conspirators on January 6th. And speaking of a co-conspirator on January 6th, here's a quick video of Nancy Pelosi's, one of her staff members, saying the quiet part out loud. They were like, we planned for this for 2 years. I mean, she tried to make it seem like, oh, we planned for something like January 6th. What are you talking about, something like January 6th? No, you planned for January 6th. Roll the clip.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they have been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
And never forget that Nancy Pelosi herself, after Trump said, listen, we probably should send some National Guard in to protect the Capitol building. There's going to be a big, huge rally. 1 million people are going to show up. I think it was the most anyone had ever seen in Washington, D.C. history. We know this is going to be a huge rally. Let's have security there. She said no. That bitch said no. And she was the one, along with Muriel Bowser, who had to authorize the National Guard. Trump could extend the National Guard and say, this is what needs to happen. She's the one who had to approve it, and she didn't. She didn't for about, 2 hours after the whole thing went down. I mean, obviously, we all know it was a setup. Everybody knows now. And now more and more is coming out that the election of 2020 stinks to high heaven. We had the Georgia stuff that came out a couple of weeks ago with Ruby Freeman and her daughter, who collected medals of freedom from Joe Biden and God knows what else coming out. And we're now looking at those suitcases of ballots they pulled out from under the tables after they sent everybody home because of a water main leak, which was a toilet that was leaking. And after everyone went home, they decided to keep counting the ballots, 98% of them that went to Joe Biden. You know, that lady. Well, now in Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen, there's even more explosive gotcha footage. Here is a clip of election workers basically saying we cannot reconcile these counts that are coming in, that Josh Shapiro went and okayed and certified that the election was completely on the up and up. Roll that clip.
You had people come in from what I consider well-heeled townships and say, well, I knew if I sent it down there, you'd figure out where it was. Well, we could.
So I think it was more from like a legal standpoint, if it like legally has to be attached to it, or if you just need to be with it so you know which tapes came from which precinct and belong to which return sheet.
I think it's a combination of both, but legally you have to have it. The issues that we had when we did the reconciliation is that we were trying to reconcile the number of people voted with the yellow books and then with the return to ballots. I mean, we haven't even talked about reconciling the used and unused ballots, and I presume that's something we can do down the road. But it was not easy, and these poor people came in there and they were sweating bullets because they all thought they were going to go out in cuffs. It has to be stressed that tape has to be attached.
Now, interesting fun fact about Josh Shapiro, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not watched the Ellen Greenberg documentary, A Death in 602 or something like that, I think it's on Hulu. It's on one of them. Just look up Ellen Greenberg Hulu or Ellen Greenberg Peacock. I'm pretty sure it's Hulu. It's very well done. The Fanning sisters, Elle Fanning and Dakota Fanning, actually executive produced this. But what's interesting about this case, and I'm not going to get into the weeds too much, it was basically the case of the girl that in 2010 allegedly committed suicide by stabbing herself in the back of the head and then stabbing herself in the heart. And it's a really weird case, admittedly. Like, it's weird. And there is some way it could have been what they say it was. But funny enough, the district attorney at the time was Josh Shapiro. It just so happened that Ellen Greenberg's fiance his family was extremely well connected in Democrat circles in Pennsylvania, which, listen, this thing stinks to high heaven because even the left-wing documentarians had to admit There was some political stuff going on. This case stinks to high heaven. And now, of course, Josh Shapiro is the governor. And Josh Shapiro approved of the 2020 election certification in Pennsylvania. TikTok, everybody. TikTok. And now, finally, let's talk about Satan's Muse, Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was like real bored, I guess. She's real bored out there, living her miserable life, waiting for at any moment the next shoe to drop, and it will, Satan's Muse, because treason has no statute of limitations. But she put out a tweet the other day and basically said that 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, Donald Trump told his supporters to storm the Capitol and to basically, create this entire insurrection. And it's like, no, he did not. In fact, Trump was pretty much immediately after he put out the comment on what he said about January 6th, 2021. Actually, let's roll that so you can see what Trump actually said. Roll that clip.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you, but go home and go home in peace.
So right after that clip, right after he said that, which was basically telling the insurrectioners, not his supporters, the deep state people that committed all the fraud and did all the things and set this whole thing up, you have a choice to make. You need to go home and stop this. But they didn't. They doubled and they tripled down. Ashley Babin lost her life. Roseanne Boyland was stomped to death by a bunch of Capitol police officers. The whole thing was a sham and a setup, and we all know this. And there's now at least 300 undercover FBI agents there, undercover Antifa there. We know all the things, okay? But Hillary Clinton decided to show that ass, ladies and gentlemen. Satan's Muse is over there in, doing her incantations and thinking that this is still going to work for her somehow. And basically committed libel on President Trump. And President Trump is not shy, ladies and gentlemen, about suing those with whom he has a legitimate beef. And you can't go out and say that Trump said something he did not say. In fact, he so didn't say the thing that you're saying that he said that Twitter immediately suspended his account and pulled that, and you could not find it anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You could not find it unless you'd already downloaded it, and you could prove these people are effing liars. These people are effing liars, okay? So Hillary Clinton, expect a lawsuit, and it's not going to be baseless, and it's not going to be a big lie that you claim questioning the 2020 election is. The 2020 election was stolen. The 2020 election was stolen in myriad ways. And that's what we're going to, I think, discover in 2026. So buckle up, buttercups, because next January 6th, 2027 is going to be one for the record books, I predict, where so much, I hope, over this next year is going to be laid bare and exposed and shown what exactly was done to so many innocent people who were thrown into prison with no chance of a trial, thrown into prison for 5 years, 4 years in horrific conditions, and then President Trump had to pardon all of them. And of course he did. What else was he supposed to do? I mean, I know he's not a filthy leftist ramming a car into ICE agents, but or a Capitol police officer that murders someone in cold blood and then gets a payoff to basically gets a unverified daycare center to the tune of $190 million, all that money thrown his way. I know he's not that guy, but sorry, these people were patriots and they were set up and they now need their recompense, and that's what's going to happen. All right, that's where I'm going to leave today's video. Please let me know what you think down below. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. And I will see you in the next video. Remember, keep kicking ass and taking names, and I will be done. Peace.